Man, what's up? Okay. Yeah. Um, I am, well, I guess in the last year or so, um, well, even longer than that, I've been focused on the problem of like how much time you have to spend doing random like slave stuff or slaving for somebody else, or how much most of your life, driving to and from the store, walking around the aisles of Walmart and stuff like that. And so on my channel, the DAHS 2000, I did a big push to um, I did a big push to convert a lot of books into audiobooks with these synthetic voices. Now the way that that's being done is really sort of in flux. But like the DAHS 2000, um, sometimes it's really problematic because of this whole thing of columns, right? What I mean by that, it's like, well, you need straight text from beginning to end, but if you have documents that are like in PDF format or something, a lot of times things that are somehow encyclopedic or catalog things or something like that, they have two columns on the pages, and this is I would love if anybody could tell me how to um, how to deal with that. But what eventually started to come to my mind is like, well, I had a lot of PDFs on my list to become audiobooks that had this column problem, and I thought, um, maybe we could go a different route and actually do a chatting stream where we open up these things and actually take a look at the text and stuff. So I decided to bring up this 1977 because of Joe Strummer and the Clash. Um, in 1977, I hope I go to heaven. I'm too long on the dole and I can't work at all. Right. So Amnesty in 1977 put out uh, uh, a report, an annual report, and over the year, like this report here is about 180 pages or so, or less. I want to make sure you can really like get it into position where it can really be sane. Um, but I'll tell you the honest truth. In my life, um, what was coming down the pike at that time was it seems like ACDC was part of it, and Alice Cooper was another big part of it. But the Sex Pistols, the Clash, and the Ramones, uh, Jethro Tull, that's what we were really into and stuff. And my um, background, I just think back to that year. How old was I? In 74, 3, 13, it's 13 or so. Um, and I guess my background at that point in human rights and stuff is like, we had been taught about World War II and the Nazis and stuff, and World War One and the Kaiser, the Red Baron, fascists. We'd heard about them, and uh, the Bible, like the things in the Bible that I knew when I was that age was like the Book of Daniel, and what is the part where there's Nimrod, the guy that he was one of those kings back then, the historicity of who cannot be. But he was like, you have to worship me. I'm God, right? He was one of these people. So if you notice, that's one of the like Mel Blanc as Bugs Bunny uses that as an epithet when somebody's like bossing him around. He's like Nimrod. It means somebody who says they thinks they're God and they're not. That's a good old thing. So we knew about the oppression and stuff and Nimrod and the fiery furnace and how they burn people alive and stuff like that, and had some ideas about human rights. But you know, I can't remember what year it was, but that was right around the time, and this is sort of speaking to Jewish contemporary music or poetry or whatever. But a young Jewish ne'er-do-well wrote, "Sitting here in Queens, eating refried beans, wearing all the magazines, gulping down Thorazines. We ain't got no friends. Our troubles never end. No Christmas cards to send. Daddy likes men. Daddy's telling lies. Baby's eating flies. Mommy's on the pills. Baby's got the chills. I'm friends with the president. I'm friends with the pope. We're all making a fortune still on Daddy's stove. We're a happy family. Me, mom, and daddy." Yeah. So these were like, I guess for me, the protest movement, the kind of emerging new kind of protest songs. And I guess what else was around that time? I don't know if I'm trying to place my own Aqualung, right? I had, because of abuse in the church and stuff, I had noticed that there was a lot of play acting, which is, Jesus calls that hypocrisy, which actually just means acting, pretending or whatever. But I kind of saw the church as a place where people wanted to mess with kids sexually or something like that, and I saw that the terrorize people and stuff. And so Jethro Tull did this album, and it was Aqualung. And on that album, there was a song called "My God," and it was a criticism of the church. And at that time, I didn't fully appreciate it. For the rest of my life, from after I heard that or I learned that song, I was like, yeah, that was like right on the money. I don't want to be oppressed by these guys. But I'm gonna look up the thing. Yeah, that was a time. Uh, we listened to Dr. John. Everybody want to get rich right away, right away, right away, right away. Everybody want to be king for a day. Everybody want to get rich right away. But and stealing. You sure cheat me out. Said you always be there. Then you disappear. Right into thin air. Your love for me is just a dirty trick. You left me holding the short end of the stick, just like stealing medicine from the sick. Yeah. So Dr. John was a big thing, but um, I guess politics. That was around the time we would get the Beatles had broken up, and somewhere right around in that time period, like as a human rights thing, awakening or something like that, there was uh, an album by John Lennon called Sometime in New York City. Sometime in New York City. And I didn't even understand all that was there. I guess the songs that I really loved was Woman is the Nigger of the World and Angela. And really I like, and Sunday, Bloody Sunday. I guess that's the first one I learned how to play guitar on. And it became, I guess around that period was my awakening of the civil rights movement in Ireland. And I have Irish, I'm really a mutt. I've got Roma, I've got South Slav, part Jewish, but mainly Irish and Scottish. And for actually, I guess Northwestern Europe, right? But I really always felt the affinity for the Irish civil rights struggle in Northern Ireland. And John Lennon's album was what was going on with that. But again, I'm kind of feeling my way here with this situation. I've got some important material that I'd like to have, online. Stuff I'd like my daughter to read over and stuff like that. And yeah. See, this is one of the early reports where they have a lot of the different countries. Let's see where it started from. Prisoners and human rights, country by country. And interesting, 1977, you don't see Albania here, right? And this is something I was looking at. It's like now there are these YouTube guys that are like, oh man, Albania is like, it's awesome, because Albania is really awesome. If you know where Albania is, it's like kind of idyllic. It's like to the northwest of Greece proper, the ancient Greeks, the Peloponnese and everything. It's to the northwest along the coast, and it borders an ocean called the Adriatic Sea. And when I was a little kid, the way I remember it as the what do you call that thing? The Italian Isthmus. It looks like a big boot. It looks like some kind of. It's got like a high heel and it looks like some kind of big boot. Leather. Maybe it would be more appropriate for England to be shaped like that. I don't know. But to place the location of Albania, it's very significant, important location in history. And there's I just noticed there's a lot of like, wow, the Europe's best kept secret. Albania. It's like it was such an awesome place, and so people are going there now. And Albania had been closed, and during the sort of behind the Iron Curtain or whatever like that, and there's it's interesting to look at human rights over the years in Albania, because the West criticized them very much. But if you look at declassified intelligence, basically the United States supported, well, and this is true. Come on, guys, the whole racial thing about black people and Indian people, it was illegal in the United States to have interracial marriage and stuff like that. And really, it's just something for, especially for young people, that you need to remember that the Germans, the Nazis or whatever, they modeled their themselves after England and the United States. They really were gushing with love and admiration, and were like, this racial purity thing is really, really what we need. And the fact is, it's not. It really leads to a lot of violence. But bearing the reality of, that a lot of people liked the Nazis in America, that were in government, that supported the Nazis and everything like that. The thing just got out of hand, with the Japanese, and that, you can't have, the Americans consider them higher than the Japanese. So it's bad if the Nazis ally with the Japanese and threaten economic interests of the United States. That kind of the straw that broke the camel's back or whatever like that. Because the United States really thought that these races of people should be done away with, that they were, not good, that they were inferior. But the having that as a model post-war, after the end of World War II, United States intelligence services wanted to see to it that, fascists got control. They didn't want big popular movements to take over. The people that resisted fascism, you see. And I like to get down to brass tacks a little bit about this. Being a human being, stuff gets complicated, and you get to a point where you're trying to run things when you're in, quote unquote, in power, and you want to simplify matters, right? And one of the problems that you run into throughout history is like there's too many people, right? So a lot of times they'll come up with a story about why we have to have a big war, and a lot of people die, and then things are better. There'll be a big, resurgence after the war is over or whatever like that. And even we have something, it's this thing, it's Malthus, who was a guy, some kind of Christian theologian. I forget exactly the details about who he was, but still today his thinking is influential, because he came up at one point and he said, well, look, agricultural output, food and livestock and everything like that, it's the growth curve is linear, and look at population growth curves, they're exponential. So trying to save the poor people is really just prolonging their agony. Really, you should kill the poor, and make it quick, so the suffering is not too long and stuff. Now, interestingly, around World War I, there's a Jewish guy, Fritz Haber, who was big into the fatherland. He was a German and naturalized, and pretty sure he was Lutheran. No, he was actually, he still practiced Judaism, Haber did. But he really believed in that sort of Nietzschean Superman power kind of thing or whatever. And that, anyway, he was trying to figure out how to poison everybody with all these poison gases. And he sort of stumbled across a way to make chemical methods to create fertilizer. And doing that, he actually solved the problem of world hunger. So Malthus, there's two things I'd like to touch on here. Malthus' position, kill the poor or whatever like that. There's two things, because look at the difference where the Chinese government, they said, look, our agricultural production is linear, but our population is growing too fast. It's exponential. We need to set a one-child policy and slow down the population, and then we'll create a lot of prosperity. Isn't that kind of nicer or more? I don't know. I think that's a little bit more nicer and humane than just exterminate them or whatever like that. But I want to tie, so Haber, invented fertilizer. The second thing is Haber invented a method for commercial production of fertilizer, and really solved the problem of world hunger. So Malthus's position is not really valid anymore. I don't think it ever was valid. I think that that's mean, to say, well, look, the population is growing faster than we're putting out food, so you should kill these extra people. That's just very, very sick and mean, I think. I think what you should do is you should damn well slow down your population growth, slow it down. And this is what the Chinese did. They instituted a one-child policy. It's interesting, in the Western propaganda against the communists in the milieu of Mao Zedong, they're like, billions. He killed, Mao Zedong's sinister, evil plot to kill his own people by the billions. You get all kinds of numbers, hundreds of millions and stuff killed by him. And you can go to any population growth curve, and the population is steadily growing all the way through. That's not saying that more than 1 million people died. Several million people died. But I find it, pretty dubious to place the number even close to what is estimated for the Taiping Rebellion, which is 75 million. When the Chinese try to convert their people to Christianity, the Western powers all got together to suppress that. And in the process of suppressing the Chinese liberation against the Qing, the Manchurians, by supporting the Qing to suppress the Taiping Rebellion, more people were killed. So certainly more people that were killed in what the Americans like to call the Great Leap Forward. And really, any sober historian will tell you that sure, it was a disaster, but there were politics that aggravated it. And certainly there's absolutely zero evidence that Mao wanted anybody to be killed of his own people. He wanted to be popular, and he still is hugely popular. If you live in China, you find many places still have big statues of Chairman Mao and everything like that. And I personally haven't gone to Chinese people's households and stuff. I say people have it's like Jesus, they got a little shrine in their house, and they, before Chairman Mao we were starving, and now we have a noodle shop. We have some hope. We have this big bamboo forest and stuff like that. But what happened in the Great Leap Forward is that people were supposed to get, under the socialist initiatives, they're supposed to get dramatic growth in agricultural production. And people were reporting growth to make themselves look good. And as information was traveling across the country on its way to the Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party, various officials along the line would increase the percentages, and this exacerbated the crisis. And also, there was a bitter old conflict between Chairman Mao and Peng Dehuai, and Peng Dehuai. There's a lot of evidence that Peng Dehuai, along with the Soviets, engaged in the setting of policies and actions that exacerbated the famine. It's just ridiculous to say that why would Mao want to, he's trying to be popular, right? Well, it's not popular to be a big failure. And incidentally, his return to power strategically, was kind of brilliant. He was like, when the Great Leap Forward famine came to light, he said, this is my fault. I'm stepping down from the chairmanship, the leadership of the party, because, mea culpa. I didn't know what I was doing, right? So that's a fact. That's a historical fact. But then subsequently, at the opening of the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution, somebody handed him the mic, and he called on all the young people to revolt against the capitalist roaders. And he said, open fire on Communist Party headquarters. They're capitalist roaders, right? And he opened up the great proletarian cultural revolution, and really got himself back into power. And it's like this: some people were rich, and after it was over, they were poor or dead, right? And a lot of people were rich; they were a lot better off. And generally, you find that most of these people, when you're in China, they're like, Chairman Mao is great. We love Chairman Mao. He's like Jesus, you know. But those are just some examples of the distortions that you get. And going back to Albania, this is what I was gonna say earlier. It's like, here you got this beautiful place, and YouTubers are going there. Man, look at all the the hot chicks and the seafood, and man, this place is awesome, man. Get over here and travel around. It's the best kept secret and stuff. Well, basically, at the end of World War II, the United States policy was whoever, was fighting the Nazis there, we don't want them because we want pro-Nazi people in power. So in the case of Albania, and you can look this up in Journal, I think it's Journal of United States Intelligence, they said, well, we're going to put together, we're going to get, I think ultimately they trained 60 Albanian spies at least, right? And the idea is they got the Army, Navy, and Marines. The United States is all in Italy there, and they're prepared to launch an invasion, right? And what they wanted to do is they take all these spy fascists. They wanted to drop essentially a fascist government in there, and those people were supposed to link up with the fascists inside Albania, right? And have a coup d'état and break out a war, and then make it look like it was some kind of commie plot or something like that. So it's like that when they restored the Shah of Iran to power or whatever, after ousting the democratically elected government, they portrayed it as, well, Mossadegh was a communist, and his whole government was a commie plot. So this fascist collaborator that we're going to put in power is, the democracy, right? So, and look what, it's an interesting comparison. If you compare Iran today, Iran ultimately took a stand, and they said, you're not going to control, the United States is not going to control our country, right? And that, they're like, it's isolated, they're a pariah state, all this stuff like that. They try to isolate them as much as possible. But Albania, it's like, it's interesting to watch these young people going to Albania, and they're like, what are all this, all this communist stuff? They've built all these, they had plans for like 700,000 bunkers, like the Stalin line was before the outbreak of Operation Barbarossa in World War II. And they actually built more than 120,000, I think. So there are all these concrete, gun emplacements or whatever all over Albania. So you can imagine how paranoid they were. That the United States is like, when they're catching these spies, and torturing them, which I'm sure that they did, right? You're paratrooper, you're paratrooping, and are you working for the United States? No, I'm not. And wham! Yeah, I am. Yeah. You can bet they worked them over, and that they told them everything. So the Albanians are sitting there. They got the whole freaking, American Navy and the British Navy and the Marines and all that stuff waiting to invade our country, and they launched a full-scale campaign to, build a new Stalin line in Albania and, arm and everything. And, of course, that takes away a lot from your ability to develop as a country. Of course, your tourist industry is shot, right? But this is the thing, and this is, I just like to touch on, I was working with a refrigeration guy. I was thinking about going into doing HVAC work because I wanted to get out of sedentary work and get more physical work, but I don't think it's that healthy. I finally decided not to do it. But he just watched only Fox News, and he was like, well, what is socialism? Socialism is like the United States of America was based on socialism. It was a terrible disaster, and they had to get rid of it. And once they got rid of socialism, then it was fine. And one time he was ranting about the immigrants, and I was like, well, the United States should stop blowing up their country, right? And if you let their country develop normally or whatever, uh, um, they're not going to. You're not going to have a situation where they're all trying to desperately to escape. I would advise if somebody was living in Guatemala or El Salvador or something, I'd be like, man, emigrate. The United States, you're in the crosshairs, right? My state in Georgia, it's like they bring the military from those countries and they train them at Fort Benning, the School of Hemispheric Cooperation, they call it, or whatever. But basically, they teach them how to torture people and have coup d'états and stuff like that, and have guerrilla warfare against peasant populations and stuff like that. And when you see like the torture training manuals and stuff, like you're like, would I want to live in El Salvador or Colombia or whatever? It feels pretty scary, right? It would be nice if the United States would stop messing these countries up so much. But we have this doctrine, it's like the Monroe Doctrine, that says these countries belong to the United States for our economic exploitation. Right? Well, if you're going to exploit them, can't you come up with something a little bit more fair? And there's a position that's taken about the natural resources, right? And this is an economic argument. What they say is they say it's Ricardo's theory in United States foreign policy. It's like, okay, say you've got England and they make cotton, right? And they've got all this stuff. They make cotton really well. They're doing really good, right? And you got Portugal here. And Portugal makes wine. They've been making wine for a long time. They're real good at it. They make a lot of it. They make it really well. Stuff like that. Okay, well, say for example, England decides they want to make wine, right? Well, they're not going to know how to do it. Not going to be. They're not going to be doing it as well. I mean, aren't these things moot, right? But this is the argument. And it's going to interfere with their ability to output cotton, right? The quality is going to go down. Right, this sudden that we're going to make wine in addition to cotton over here and try to develop a wine industry, right? That's going to somehow cause the quality of the cotton to go down because it takes away from the energy that we put into that, right? And then the quality of the wine that we make is going to be on the market, but its quality is going to go down. So the quality is going to go down. It's also going to reduce the price. So things are going to get scarcer. Okay, so when things get scarcer, the price is going to go up. So the quality goes down, the supply goes down, the price goes up, and thus by violating this theory of comparative advantage, you precipitate, world hunger and starvation and stuff like that. Now, in practice, if you don't have anything in your country but rice fields, then people that make bazookas are going to land and blow your ass away and kill everybody. Right, and then, develop their rice industry in what used to be your country until you were all dead. Now, and this is just a sad, sad situation. So this whole thing of American foreign policy is like a big disaster. Ricardo's theory is just garbage, and people shouldn't be promulgating it. Right, you can shoot it full of holes in a very pedestrian manner, as I was doing. Oh my goodness, I've got a call coming in. Hold on. Doom doom doom. Doom doom doom. Let's see. I may have to break. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know if this thing is working. Hello. Hello. I don't know why you say goodbye. I say hello. Is this what I am on? 9, 10. Certainly is. Um, I don't know if this is this a real call. Is it going through? Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm gonna go back here. Is your audio working or something? Okay, this Skype thing has got me. Oh, he's chatting. Did you select your no, but okay. So what I'm gonna do? I'm supposing this is a call from a loved one, and so I'm gonna drop this, and we'll get back to this Albanian thing a little bit later. So until then, it's not gonna be then. See you next time.